think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. Here today, I'm with Peter Behncke of Gold Royalty. We're here at the GROY Symposium, and I'm happy to be here with Peter. Learned a little bit about your company, and so I want to, have a discussion about what Gold Royalty is, what it does, and I mean, a lot of my audience do understand like what royalty and streaming is, but I want to hear from your perspective. And so, could you share a little more about Gold Royalty with us?
Yeah, Daryl, thanks for having me on, and great to get to speak with you today. So, Gold Royalty, for those that don't know, we're still a relatively young company. We just went public 3 years ago, and to your point on royalty and streaming and the business model as a whole, we view it as really the best way to gain exposure to any underlying commodity price, in our case, gold. And that's for a few reasons. First, no exposure to operating costs or capital costs. We're insulated from inflation. We just take a percentage of top line revenue. Second, we're diversified. We have over 240 assets at Gold Royalty. You look at most producing companies, developing companies, you've got a lot of single asset risk there. So it's a much lower risk investment in that regard. Third key point, we have very low overheads. At Gold Royalty, we have 8 full-time employees, so very low fixed cost structure. So as our revenue continues to grow, you can expect our costs to stay flat. And finally, you get all the exploration and expansion potential upside that our operators are conducting on our assets for free. We never have to put another dollar into these assets, but we see significant exploration investment going into the underlying projects. And all that upside accrues to us and our shareholders at no cost.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Like you all are keeping the administrative costs down, which that becomes a concern for many investors. It's like, okay, how much of our investment is going towards administrative costs? So Gold Royalty, it focuses solely on royalty, or does it have a streaming aspect of it too?
Yeah, we actually just acquired our first stream last month. We actually acquired a copper stream over a high quality silver project in Europe. And we'll invest in both royalties and streams. They're relatively similar in that they provide top line exposure. There are some nuances in the different types of contracts, but from an economic standpoint, very similar types of agreements.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And so what percentage of your company is solely focused towards gold, silver, copper? What do those percentages break down to?
Yeah, so we're still close to 90% gold exposure by number of assets, book value, underlying net asset value, so any metric you really look at it. A bit of our near-term revenue is a bit more tilted to copper. Closer to 30% of near-term revenue will be in copper, and that's based on consensus estimates of forward-looking revenue. But you'll see us always maintain that precious metals tilt as we continue to evaluate new opportunities. It's a bit of a rule of thumb. There's not a lot of science behind it, but you look at the majors within the royalty and streaming sector, they typically like to maintain at least 75% precious metals to maintain that precious metals status in the views of the market.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So some of the concerns with like investors that I hear that comes up is like percentage of ownership of the leadership of the company. And so what does that currently look like for Gold Royalty?
Yeah, so management insiders currently own 5% if you look at our CD filings, the insider report filings. But I'd also highlight that Gold Mining Inc., our former parent company, still owns 13% of the stock. So we're getting close to 20% on controlled shares by insiders. And in fact, management and Gold Mining Inc. have continued to buy the stock when they've seen opportunistic points of the share price to pick up additional shares.
Gotcha. And you're listed on the New York Stock Exchange?
Yeah, we're solely listed on New York. Yeah, and we've got quite strong trading liquidity relative to peers on the NYSE, which is important. I think something that's often overlooked is investors can make investments, get into positions, but if there's no liquidity in a stock, it's hard to crystallize those gains in the future.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And so we're here at the Rick Rules Symposium, and one of the benefits of being here is that the companies that are here at the symposium are in Rick's portfolio. Mm-hmm. So what did Rick see in Gold Royalty that presented an opportunity for him to say, okay, I'm actually going to add you to my portfolio? Like, what did he believe in the company? What did he see? So what was that kind of like?
Yeah, I think first and foremost with any mining type company, whether it's exploration, producing, development, or a royalty and streaming company, it comes down to asset quality. And our portfolio is anchored on generational high quality assets. In fact, we've got 3 of the 5 largest gold mines in Canada. We have royalties over those really major deposits within our portfolio that underpin our valuation. So I think that's something that a lot of investors see. It's that quality of asset, but not only quality of asset, it's the quality of jurisdiction we've established ourselves in. Over 80% of our business value is in Quebec, Ontario, and Nevada, which are very established mining jurisdictions, a lot less geopolitical risk in the development of those key assets in our portfolio. And on the back of those key assets, we've established the strongest revenue growth rate within the royalty and streaming sector. I think as that revenue begins to crystallize in the coming quarters and coming years, it'll be a natural catalyst for a re-rating in the stock in the relatively near term. The ability to go from 2021 18 royalties to today to 240 royalties with exceptional quality assets is really a testament to the board of management. And I think that's the other factor that attracted Rick and other investors to the story. It's our track record of executing on M&A, growing the portfolio accretively, and continuing to evaluate opportunities, but in a disciplined manner going forward.
Gotcha. And early on, you mentioned how royalty companies, they limit the risk because they're financing the mines. They receive a check regardless of inflation costs on mining activities and such. And right now, one of the common things that I've been seeing is, okay, we have the price of gold at all-time highs measured in dollars, but the mining shares are still struggling to get off the ground. And so what has been kind of like your idea or just your take on where gold is going? How do you see miners continue to be profitable so that money continues to generate to Gold Royalty?
Yeah, so starting with the commodity, and while we are at all-time highs in nominal terms, if you zoom out and look at an inflation-adjusted gold price, the real price of gold, we're still well below where gold was in the early 1980s, the last major inflationary cycle. So we see a lot of room to run for the commodity. With regards to how the equities have reacted, it's obviously been frustrating, not only on the producers, explorers, and developers, but we've even seen royalty and streaming companies trade off in terms of where the multiples are at, which is a bit confusing given the fundamentals are only stronger in a rising gold price environment. We would argue that there is some rationalization to see producers, explorers, developers have their margins eroded. Inflationary pressure has been positive for gold as it decreases real interest rates, but that inflationary pressure boils over into rising operating costs, rising capital costs, and ultimately eroding margins and profitability of those projects. As a royalty company, we're completely insulated from that. So a rising gold price is only good for us. And I think that separation will ultimately come through as results are delivered and you see the outperformance on a cash flow basis of the royalty and streaming companies.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Well, I appreciate you for coming on. Where can people find more information about Gold Royalty?
Yeah, so easily accessible. Can call our toll-free number or info@goldroyalty.com. We'll get you direct access to us. We usually get back right away, and I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions or detailed questions about the portfolio any potential investors may have.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me, Darryl.
All right.